1340 96.5 KVGC. Everything Old is New again tonight at 6 o'clock, hosted by our good friend Douglas Viviani and his sidekick. I'm going to call him a sidekick. David Cohen tonight at 6 o'clock. Hey, before we get, I want to start the show on a somber note this morning. Where were you 56 years ago yesterday? Do you remember?
I don't. I was one.
Oh, okay.
I do remember Bobby Kennedy. I don't know if I remember it from a rerun or it actually happened, which I think was 67, if I'm right, or 68.
68.
68. So I was 6 years old, but I remember seeing on television them carrying him out of the Ambassador Hotel. So that one certainly rings a bell for me because I was at least of age to acknowledge what a horrifying situation. And thereafter, I remember, as an 9-year-old, seeing Vietnam War on the TV all the time and not being able to sleep and asking mom and dad, am I going to have to go there and all of this. It was tough. I mean, that was the assassination of Kennedy, and thereafter was that was the first of a lot of troubling times. Like a lot of highs in the 60s, huge lows, Did you really ask your parents, will I have to go there? Were you afraid? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would be a routine, too. I mean, a lot of times it would happen. I would say it's hard to remember exactly, but it was frequent. If I had to guess, I'd say it would be weekly. I'd be asking. Really? And so I'd have to sleep with them. I mean, I'm talking about like young. I'm talking about 6 to 10 in that range, but maybe even 6 to 12. But certainly 6 to 10. I definitely had that on my mind and was frightened of it the whole entire time.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when you were 16 or 17.
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was afraid. I was afraid of other things at that time.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I can remember. I was in first grade, and I can remember we'd come back from. It was raining, and so we didn't get to go out for lunch recess. For recess, we'd eaten our lunch. We were inside. It was time to start getting ready for the afternoon of instruction, and I can remember the principal coming in and looking very somber and telling my teacher, and my teacher just burst out in tears.
Oh, wow. And
then they said, children, we're going to be releasing you. You're going to be riding with the bus. And I can remember we rode the bus home with the high schoolers and all the upper, and we never rode with the high schoolers on the way home. And they said, that the president had been, I don't know if they said the president had been assassinated or if something, because who knows at the first, when you're that age, what assassination means. Right. And I can remember going home to my grandmother's house and staying at my grandmother's house till my parents got home from work. My aunt had just had some surgery, and she was staying there with them, and they were all in the living room watching the TV, and I can remember as a kid going, come on, man, what's going on here? Because there was no cartoons or anything like on the weekends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it was like,
really,
hey, what's going on here?
Figure that stuff out,
I can remember my parents being, upset about it and so forth. And
I'll tell you, do you remember after that? Now, I don't know why I do remember this. I guess it was on reruns. It had to be, or maybe they did it after his brother was assassinated, or maybe even Martin Luther King. But Mr. Rogers had a show describing and detailing for kids what is assassination, what does that mean,
really,
what happened, how do you deal with it. I mean, this guy was underrated because he was so. I guess as an adult, the word goofy or whatever comes to mind, but he was a huge influence for me. I'm talking like 5 to 8 years old, something like that. But it laid the groundwork of understanding some things, and he approached those subjects. You wouldn't realize, it wasn't just this goofy little show that had these puppets. He actually had something to say.
Have Leo or Angelica seen the show at all? Have you shown it to them? I think it's on Netflix or.
Yes, you can get shows,
like
and
that.
I haven't. I feel kind of upset about that in a way now that we're talking about it, and he's got that, Tom Hanks has got that movie out this weekend. maybe what I will do, and I think that might be a nice springboard, is take them one of these days to see the movie. Whether I don't know how if they'll relate or not, I don't know. But the bottom line is, I'm thinking out loud that I would take them to that movie, and then if they're into it, say, "Well, let's watch some of those shows." You know, because he was. If you watch, I mean, as an adult looking back, this guy was a special dude. He was somebody that could relate to these kids. It just gave everybody this attitude of, you know, and it sounds pie in the sky, but, you know, love everybody and let's understand what life is about, and everybody is a neighbor, and
but he did stuff,
goodness,
and it wasn't in your face. If you remember, there's it was a pivotal part of the show, very important. There had been a ban of children, black children, from swimming pools.
Right.
And he brought, I think it was his mailman or one of the police chief or whatever, and they soaked their feet in this pool, in a little kid's wading pool. Let's come share the pool with me.
Right, he was African American, right? And they did that, and it just by example, right?
Yeah, that's the way that he worked, and I watched the show as a curious teenager, seriously, as about, you know, between 12 to 13, 14, you know, in the summer. I would see it on reruns, and I would watch it just because it was on in the afternoon, and I was always interested in, not as much as Adam Goldberg, but in filmmaking and stuff like. So I always liked the way that they transitioned from his house to the land of make believe, and then back again, and the puppets, and you know, it. I mean, I liked the show. I would sit down and probably watch the show right now today. Maybe not enjoy it as much, but I would definitely sit down and watch it with children. I actually think maybe they should bring it back, because a lot of that's timeless. That he did.
Really is, or I don't know what to say. This is too much to say, but what's happened where there's no one taking over for him? Certainly, he was one of a kind, but it's been something like 10 years since he's gone, and there's nothing that even when it went off the air, so it's got to be like 15, 20 years since he went off the air. Nothing's come about to replace what he did. You know, like to just show you how unique it is. You know,
please watch your mouth, because I don't want someone to come. The new Mr. Rogers, and have it. And it just. Have you seen the new? Did you see my kids? Jake and Joey watched Blue's Clues, the very first run.
Yes.
Of it. Now I think we're in the third, Steve, and another Blue.
Now is the third one? I know they're coming out. Is the third one come out?
I don't know if it's come out yet, but I see the previews for it all the time, and it's like, come on, man, come on.
My son looks at him and he goes, that guy shouldn't even be on the planet. He just has an odd look. The new host. Leo's not a fan of the guy, but they love the original show, and the original guy, for some reason, they really got a kick out of that. And the game, we used to play the Blues Clues game in the pool. You know, I'm thinking of something. Here are the 3 clues, whatever. And so it was kind of fun, but it's had its time. But I don't know. Maybe it'll work this time around. I have no idea, but. That's the closest, right?
So let me ask you a question. So next week is Thanksgiving, next Thursday. We will not be doing a show on Friday,
right?
But you and David will be here on Saturday.
Yep.
The question is, do you decorate your house the day after Thanksgiving? Do you wait until December 1st, which is actually Sunday? Or will you wait till later on or have you already begun?
Yes, that's a good question. We do it routinely the day after Thanksgiving, and put everything up that day, because it seems to go so fast. It's a lot of work to put a lot of stuff out for a couple of days. Like I know people that wait like the week before. Like I'm not doing that because I got to take it down like the week after. So I want it up for a little while. Although I do see lots of people decorating already. Like, haven't you seen stuff out now?
Oh, yes. There's someone in my neighborhood that actually has their Christmas tree in their window. They've had it for about a week.
And, you know, they've had studies. Do you believe this or not? I don't know. If you decorate for Christmas before Thanksgiving, or the longer you do, the happier you are.
Oh, no. I heard the exact opposite.
Really?
I'm serious. Yeah, it was the sooner you decorate for Christmas, like before Thanksgiving, the more stress you enter into your life because you're dealing with both Christmas, because it's visual, you see it all the time, and
Right.
you know that Thanksgiving's coming, so you've put extra stress in your life by piling the two holidays. To me, I'd keep the Christmas decorations up year-round. Holidays, again, Douglas, I've told you this before, I grew up, and it sounds like you probably did too, I grew up in, in a Leave It to Beaver type household.
Right.
And, the Brady Bunch, I thought everybody lived that way. It didn't.
Right.
I didn't know it actually till I went away to college. All my friends were that way. Our family friends were that way. And I'm not trying to sound elitist or special or anything, but I had a great childhood, and holidays were always good for me. But I know as an adult and learned as a young adult, they're not that happy for a lot of families.
Right, and that's the thing. Like when you're growing up, you don't realize, of course, what your environment you're in, and you could say you take it for granted in some ways. There's some great ideas out there. I don't know if you ever heard of Glenn Beck or heard him on the radio, but he's had an idea. I got to give him credit for this. What he did was, with his family, they put together this huge jar where they put their change and money into, which a lot of people do. But what they do is, like, the week before Christmas, at nighttime, they put a bow on the jar, and for a family member or a house or a church or somewhere that they believe this person had a tough year or needs something, they leave the jar on which is a pretty big jar, like a 2-foot jar, 2.5 feet, they leave it on the doorstep for that individual anonymously. So, there's stuff like that you could do if you really take some time to think about it to make someone's day. Like, a lot of times the churches or different organizations have, pick the kid, and you have a little toy or something the kid's looking for, and you can donate to that. There's stuff you could do to help make it better for others, that's for sure.
We have the sheriff's toy drive here. And then they give toys that families can go get a couple of toys for their kids. But that's a great idea there. Glenn Beck. I haven't heard Glenn Beck's name. You remember he was pretty hot there for a while.
He was huge. Then he did his own station. He's got something called The Blaze. I never saw it, but I think he made his own station.
I don't know if he still has it or not. I mean, it's yeah.
You have to, I guess you have to subscribe for it and all this stuff.
Who's that other guy that's on it? Mark
Levin.
Mark Levin, I think, is also on The Blaze.
True New Yorker.
Is he? Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, speaking of New York, when I come to visit you,
yes,
maybe now I'll come during the holidays instead. My wife has always dreamt of the decorations, always wants to see the Christmas tree there at Radio City.
Yep.
Have you seen it before?
Oh, yeah. It's tremendous. In fact, it's up now, although it's not on. The lights aren't on yet. I don't think they do that till like December 4th. It's huge. It's unbelievably huge. It's really cool. And then, of course, as you know, right in front of it is the iconic, ice skating rink.
Yeah.
And you could do that. And that's part of the scene, man. You do that. You go to see, like, maybe you've seen some of the movies where they have the windows at Macy's where you could take a look at what's going on there. They just unveiled those today in New York City. So now you can go and see these huge windows that they make up of different scenes, of Christmas scenes. So that kind of gets into a little bit of a mindset. Then when Santa arrives the day after or the day of Thanksgiving, from that point on, they have a visit Santa, get your picture taken with Santa, and the line's like 45 minutes, but you don't care because the village that you wind through is so creative with trains and machinations and mechanized characters and all this that it's just amazing. So New York City, your wife's got it. I mean, it's just something that I guess because of the ambiance, there's so much going on, so many lights, so much decorations. The Christmas time is really a fun place to go.
How far do you live away from it?
We're only about the train ride is like 45 minutes to an hour, depending which train. But by car, it's a half-hour ride. It's about 30 miles, not even.
See, we're from California, so we're going to drive. We're going to ride the train.
And you're going to pay $55 for parking. That's the problem.
And go across 20 toll bridges.
Exactly.
Hey, this is what I want you and David. I don't know if... See, in December, you guys kind of do retrospect, right? You kind of do repeats of shows or look back at the year. This is... I don't know if you've done this show yet, but on Thursday, I was watching TV... afternoon by myself. I discovered what my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I used to think it was Miracle on 34th Street. Okay,
right.
My new favorite has to be Home Alone, the original.
Really?
Oh my God! I laughed from the start. You know when they start when they start going through the house.
Yeah.
And oh God, no one gives Joe Pesci, he's a great comic actor,
Yeah.
And Daniel Stearns is, of course, I've never seen him in anything. Is he still alive? Do you know?
Yes, he is. I'm trying to get him on the show totally in the cupboard, so to speak. He's not really doing anything at this point. Don't know why.
Really? Yeah, because he was the voice of Kevin Arnold, right?
Yeah, he was great at it.
Yeah.
And he was in that movie with Billy Crystal, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. What? No.
I can't remember that name. But City Slickers.
City Slickers, that was it. Yeah, Home Alone. When they start going through the house, I don't know. It's so Three Stooges.
Right, exactly. It's like a cartoon. Right.
But
that's the Christmas movie. Like that barely qualifies as a Christmas movie. But I guess you got the scene at the end with the old man and all this. Brings.
Yeah, well, it happens at Christmas time because the family goes out of town for Christmas. So, do you have a favorite Christmas movie? Is it too early to think about it?
Back in the day, before I've seen it 35 times, 34 years, let's say, it was It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
Without hesitation. And then thereafter, I'm a huge fan of Gene Shepard, who was on the radio in the 70s, told a lot of stories all the time, was a raconteur, and commented upon pop culture a lot. And he, believe it or not, is the writer and narrator of A Christmas Story.
Sure.
So that's the second. That I really, really like that one. But again, both of those now have been played so often. I am kind of searching for the new one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So many times you can see that, and your emotions are shot. You know that he's getting the money at the end from everybody.
Right, but it's still it's
terrific.
Hey, so who's going to make the turkey on Thursday at your house?
We get lucky. My sister and brother-in-law do that, and they buy two. We have about 20 people, and they've got it down to a science. We all bring a little something on the side, and they've got. But I tell you, I buy a turkey myself, or two. Last year I bought two, froze them, and I take them out in like a week or two after Thanksgiving, and then like another month later, because there's nothing like the turkey leftovers, those turkey sandwiches. You don't get. My sister does not dish out the leftovers of turkey as I would like. Let's put it that way. I like the sandwich the next day better than the dinner.
Martha Stewart says that you should bake an extra bird and then carve it and give it to your family or friends as they leave.
She's completely correct, but you've got to, don't forget, extra stuffing. You've got to give them the stuffing as well, because the turkey sandwich without the stuffing around Thanksgiving just doesn't do it. Get that stuffing on the sandwich with a little mayo, salt, and pepper, and your turkey, and trust me, maybe some toasted bread, you're in good shape.
If you run into Barbecue Guy before the holidays, I want you to give him a recipe that was given to me last week by a friend of mine, and we can end the show with this. Horseradish cranberry sauce. You take a jar of horseradish, regular, not blended, and a can of cranberries, and you mix them together, 1-to-1. Whip it up and serve that. And they said, especially the day after with turkey sandwiches. I'm going to try it just as a experiment. I don't think I'll serve it because I told Teresa, and she was like, yeah.
It sounds odd, but sometimes those odd combinations work.
That's why I say, sounds odd. Tell barbecue guy. Hey, probably love it. Who knows?
Well,
Douglas.
I'll tell you, that is along the lines of what's happening tonight on the show.
It is?
We're doing a Thanksgiving show, our second one ever. We've only done 2 now. This is going to be interesting because we look back at a couple of things, and for the most part, look back at Thanksgivings of the past and how can we honor. You want to be thankful.
Yeah.
Thank all the people that came before, like your parents and we all have memories of Thanksgiving as a kid, and the grandparents, maybe even your great-grandparents possibly, were around, and great-uncles, whatever, that generation before us, what did they eat at Thanksgiving? I think we forget the different kinds of foods that were available and around back in the day. Number one, huge back in the day, up to like the 50s, believe it or not, some form or another of oysters were huge for Thanksgiving.
Yikes.
Do you remember that? How about, did your grandmother ever bring over the creamed onions?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hated
We
them.
would go to my grandmother's house, another big one, and if you think about it, it's like, huh? What? It doesn't match, but I would love to do it this year, but my wife always, puts the kibosh on it. Raviolis. For
Interesting.
always, every holiday meal we had them. My grandmother.
Isn't that a form of honoring, the past? If I'm going to show up with the creamed onions this year, we haven't seen them in the house in Thanksgiving for 20 years since my grandmother passed, and everyone's going to think of her.
Do it.
At least for a couple of minutes, isn't that a kind of a nice tribute? I don't know. It's just my thought.
Do it.
And that's what our show is about. Let's look at some of these old recipes. What was Thanksgiving like for people? I don't know. What about 1800s or early 1900s? What was it like for your grandparents and great-grandparents' Thanksgiving? Not the same. I don't know that it was now. The menu was certainly different. What about these parades? I don't think they've ever changed. We look back at the parades back in the 40s and stuff. So we have some fun just to kind of throw back and give a nod to those who came before us. And because all of our memories of Thanksgiving, I think, go back to family as a kid. And so we're just trying to dig up those memories so we enjoy the holiday a little bit more.
If you looked into it, I would assume, and you know what happens when you assume, but I would assume that Captain Balzac's family, probably a great relative, was either the captain of the Mayflower or he was a deckhand. Wouldn't you assume that?
He's seafaring in one form or another, that's for sure. And if not, he'll tell us that they were anyway.
Tonight at 6 o'clock, tomorrow night at 6, Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen. Douglas, have a happy Thanksgiving. We won't talk to you again, I guess, until December 7th. Wow. That seems like a long time away, doesn't it?
It's sad, but the show will be on. I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah, you'll be there. Have a good one.
Thanks. You too.
Happy
Enjoy the leftovers.